Time now for the last installment of our four-part series on Korea's outlook for 2015. Today we look into the arena of domestic politics.
Right, and to see what's in store for the nation's presidential office, the parliament, and main political parties this year, we have our Park Jiwon joining us to give us the political preview of 2015. Hey, Jiwon.
Hi guys, well this year will be full of changes and challenges for politicians from both sides of the aisle. And there's one very noticeable absence this year. There will be no national elections this year in 2015. So the Park Geun-hye administration, which is about to enter its third year out of its 5-year term, is hoping to focus entirely on its policy goals and reforms that it has envisioned since its inauguration about 2 years ago. But before we get into that, let's first check out the biggest political events of this year. The first major political event of the year will be on February 8th. That's when the main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, will hold a convention to select a new party leader and Supreme Council members. Up until last July, the opposition party was led by two co-leaders, Kim Han-gil and former presidential candidate An Chol-soo. However, the party faltered in July's by-elections and has been led by interim leader Moon Hee-sang ever since. Former presidential candidate Moon Jae-in and Park Jiwon, a close aide to former President Kim Dae-jung, will go head-to-head for chairmanship of the party in February. On April 29th, by-elections will be held for the 3 parliamentary seats that turned vacant when the minor opposition Unified Progressive Party was disbanded in December. These are 3 electoral districts in which traditionally progressive parties have been successful in the past. If the ruling party loses all 3 this time around, though, it could be seen as a referendum on the incumbent administration. In May, both the ruling and opposition parties will elect their new floor leaders. For the ruling Saenuri Party, an internal strife between supporters of President Park and those who don't stand with her has widened. Whoever replaces current floor leader Lee Wan-gu, who's in the Park Geun-hye camp, will have a big influence on the relationship between the party and the presidential office. Later on in the summer, the minor progressive Justice Party will elect its new leader.
So, Jiwon, no national elections in 2015, but clearly a lot of elections within the political party. How is that expected to shape up the political arena?
Well, according to experts, the most watched of the party elections will be when the new floor leaders of both parties are picked in May. President Park Geun-hye wants to push through her reform agendas through the legislation, and that will require a cooperation from the National Assembly. Let's take a listen.
The presidential office can push through its agenda at Parliament so long as the floor leaders cooperate. For the president, the floor leader is more important than the party leader because the floor leader leads legislative duties. If the ruling party's new floor leader comes from outside President Park's support base, it will be a tough year for the presidential office.
Right, it looks like it's going to be a tough year or a busy year for the other Park Jiwon and of course our President Park Geun-hye as well. The administration is obviously under pressure to produce some tangible results this year, and they're really under the microscope, but what will their main focus be on?
Well, the President Park Geun-hye wants to forge ahead with reforms, especially in the arena of a more flexible labor market and state agencies and national pension system. But these are very controversial items, so it requires a very cautious approach to minimize backlash. And as you can see from this decline in President Park's approval ratings from nearly 65% at one point last year to below 40% at its lowest, the public is paying close attention to what the presidential office is doing and will continue to do so in this new year.
Well, we'll also be closely following the events throughout the year. I'm sure you'll keep us updated. Thank you for your report today, Jiwon.